Okay.
I forgot to start the recording, guys, so. And then while you're doing some critiquing, I'm gonna do a little research and come up with something for us to talk about after you're done with critiquing. So I don't want to do a 2-hour critique, but we're gonna do a little bit of it for tonight while I put a discussion together. This will not be the first time that I have put a meeting together while we were talking, so I've got practice at this. Beth's laughing at me. I see her laughing. So for those of you that are new tonight, I apologize. We're usually not, we usually don't have any issues like this, but when we do, we compromise and do a good job and get it done. So Margie, we're going to get to your discussion here in a minute. I just want to run a couple of dates by y'all to make sure you guys are aware. September 18th, that is this coming Sunday, we're doing a photo walk to the Strip District. As of right now, the weather looks well, as of yesterday, the weather looked really good. I didn't look at it today. Let's see, daily weather. Sunday, it looks like 80 degrees and just a slight chance of a shower maybe. So that don't look too bad. And the chance of precipitation is less than 20%. So that's a good day in anybody's book. So that will be, if you haven't done that walk, Rex will attest to it. Margie will attest to it. It's a fun day to walk down there and hang around at the Strip District. We do that first thing in the morning. And go from there because the shops kind of close up in the afternoon. So we try to go first thing in the morning. That way places are open. You can get in and out and take pictures and stuff. The majority of the places will allow you to take pictures inside as well. There are a few that don't allow that, and I've been thrown out of them, and I know DL's been thrown out of them with me. So, so anyhow, that's next Sunday. I'll put a time together to meet here and put that out in an email here probably tomorrow sometime.
And a location.
And yeah, we'll get a location.
Like Holy's.
We normally do. Yeah, we normally just meet in front of Woolley's Fish Market or whatever it is there. That's the easiest, and everyone kind of knows where that's at if you've ever been down there. So that's normally what we do. I'll figure out a time unless you guys want to actually, you know what, let's just do a time now. What time you guys want to meet?
Stores open up around 10, so
Between 10 and 10:30.
That is fine.
Question mark.
Does that work with you guys, Rustians? Who all's going?
I'm going.
I should at least say.
I can't.
I'm in.
All right. So between 10 and 10:30, that sound good, guys?
Sounds good to me.
Good.
Okay, between 10 and 10:30. I know Annie's going. I will speak for her. She already told me she's going.
Right.
I can't make it, Brian. Sorry. This is Rob.
That's just not fair, Rob. You have to go.
Well, my son's visiting from Boston and we're going on a bike ride that day. So,
Well, bring your bike and bring him. You can ride through the strip. We'll take pictures of you.
I thought of that. So you may see us
practice
there.
All right. Well, I guess that's important, Rob. So
Thanks.
between 10 and 10:30, between 10 and 10:30, we'll throw that. I'll throw an email out tomorrow for that. But we'll be down there between 10 and 10:30 in front of Holy's Fish Market is where we'll meet, and then we'll go from there. I haven't quite decided yet. Those of you that are going, do you want to do a scavenger hunt, or you just want to go down and walk around and take pictures?
No, let's just walk around and take pictures, because when we do the scavenger hunt, it is fun, mind you, but people are more interested in finding the item than
All right.
doing
I
quality.
mean, we're gonna walk around and take pictures. I might give you a couple items to see if you can find while you're there, though. Some fun stuff that I know exist. And it isn't fair to DL because he already knows it's there too.
DL, you and I together.
All right, so that's this Sunday coming up. 2 dates in October to keep an eye on. October 1st, which, believe it or not, isn't all that far away at this point because we're on the 12th at this point in this month. October 1st is a photo walk. That is at the Pittsburgh Zoo. That's going to be on a Saturday. And that typically will happen first thing in the morning. That is another one of them. We get there at the opening time. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be able to make that or not, just because it's being on a Saturday and I work on Saturdays. and I'm off the following Saturday for part of my vacation. So I may not make that one myself, but if I'm not, I'll have someone in charge of that. And then October 22nd is a picnic up in Ohio Powell for the group. And that is also a Saturday. And I'll put more information out about that, where we're meeting and that kind of stuff as we get closer to that one. Marty is not here right now, so I'll give you guys a little update on the show. Dennis was there. Dennis was there. Margie was there. Marty was there. Beth was there at the opening the other night. I'm trying to think if anyone else is on here. That was Rob, or yeah, Bob was there.
Carl
was there. We had a really nice opening. We put up a really nice show, guys. Very, very impressed. Impressed to the point that I believe one of the members from the Greensburg Art Center said it may have been or is the best show they've had there yet.
A lot of people.
For this year, I guess, is what they were referring. I don't know if they meant ever, but they were very pleased with our show. And I did some things happened in my schedule, and I was able to go down to the opening. I was very glad to be able to get down there and hang out with everyone. It was a really, really nice show. Marty is this evening, instead of being here, she is at the Greensburg Art Center, and they talked her into doing a 45-minute talk about the Westmoreland photographers. So I'm glad they talked to her and not me. So she's down there, she's talking about her show, the photographers, the pictures and all that kind of stuff, and giving their members a nice talk this evening. But everyone that participated, thank you very much. It was really, really a nice group of photos. If you haven't been down there, check them out, go down there and take a look, walk around the place, take a look at our photos. And there's some possibilities of maybe a little bit of black and white classes or film developing class coming up that we might get into down there a little bit and work on. You can't see me, but I'm looking at Beth. Me and Beth spent a little bit of time talking to a couple of their members about that, and there's a chance we might. Or I shouldn't say there's a chance that Beth's going to give a small class and I might help, put it that way, on some black and white developing. So it will be a relatively small class. Their black and white room is not very big, but it is a place that we could go. So we're working on something there, which I think will probably turn out to be something pretty cool. If you've never developed film or a print, go do it at least once in your life. It's worth seeing the magic of the print show up on the paper. Every time I do it, I still get excited. I still think it's magic. I believe there's some kind of sorcery going on there. All right. So that's all I have as far as dates goes. There's other stuff coming up, but those are the dates I wanted to point out for this, the remainder of this month. I will say that on the 25th of this month, that's 2 Sundays from now. That's the last day of the Renaissance Festival. If anyone hasn't made it down, you're welcome to come down and hang out with me and DL. I know DL is going to be there. He didn't say anything, but I know he's going to be there. But we're going down and hang out for the day. The last day is always the most creative day. We'll put it that way.
25th, right?
25th. Yes, sir.
I'll be there.
So me and DL will be there. I get there at before they open, and I leave once they kick me out. So we'll be there all day. If you want to stop down at any point, just if you don't have my phone number, let me know and I'll give it to you. And you can give me a call if you're coming a little bit later than me. So, Rob, it was your first trip to the Renaissance Festival there last weekend. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was interesting. I really had a good time. I enjoyed seeing all exhibits and all the shows and stuff, and a lot of good photo opportunities. So I had a lot of fun. It's really the first time I had a chance to use my new camera and take some action shots, and some of the things I took come up pretty well. So I was very happy with it.
Good. And Dawn, it was also your first trip to the Renaissance Festival. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I would say kind of the same thing Rob did. A lot of photo opportunities. I think anytime that you, for me anyway, that I have an opportunity to shoot people candidly is a great time. And yeah, I came away with some pictures I'm happy with.
Good, good. We're looking forward to seeing those.
And they're into it. You know, they were
Absolutely.
living it, not acting it. So it was a good
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
That's a good comment.
Good. So there's two brand new people that have never been there. They both attested it's a good place to go take some
Yeah.
pictures. So I'd like to see some more of you guys down there on the 25th with me and DL and whoever else shows up.
Well, the added benefit was I've been wanting to go to that for years, and my wife was happy she didn't have to go with me, so it worked out great.
I was there yesterday again and spent the day down there. I took my mom. She likes to go down there once in a while. So I took her with me yesterday and we spent the day down there. Started out in the rain, ended in the rain. It got really hot and sunny in the middle of the day. So it was a pretty cool day. But she enjoys herself. She likes those shows and stuff. She was very fascinated with the squire on a wire, or as he called himself, the dope on a rope. Yeah, so she liked that and the other stuff and the birds and all that kind of stuff. So she had a good time too. So, all right, Margie, you said you had something that you wanted to discuss.
Yes, I do.
Brian, may I make a,
Oh.
Brian, may I say something before Margie starts her presentation? Recently or presently, the Trobe Art Center has the Fred Rogers juried competition, and two of our members have our photographs in the show. Jim Meehan has 3 photographs that were selected, and Jim Murphy had 1 photograph that was selected. So kudos to those guys that were elected for this juried competition at the Latrobe Art Center, the Fred Rogers annual competition. It was for both art and photography.
Good deal. Congratulations, Jim and Jim. Jim Meehan is on here. Jim Murphy, I think, is on vacation or something.
Yeah, he's on vacation right now. He couldn't make it to the show.
Okay. But congratulations, Jim. And if you don't mind, maybe get that photograph over to Marty so she can add it into the newsletter and give you congratulations with to the whole club that way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll be sure to send them over.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a good one at Fred Rogers. That's a nice show. And another cool place to go check out some stuff. If you guys haven't been up to the Latrobe Art Center, go check it out. With that show up, it's a pretty good show. I've been to it several times in the past. Okay. Anybody else have anything before we let Margie ramble on?
Ramble on.
Brian, be nice.
I am being nice. Ask her.
He's never nice to me. What are you talking about?
She knows I love her. That's the reason I do it.
Yeah, I know.
All right, Margie, it's up to you now.
Okay, I talked to several members. In fact, there were several members who actually came up to me and have talked to me, not only at the reception we had the other night, but they've emailed me. We have 2 meetings a month. We have the WPS Zoom meeting, and we also have the SWIG Zoom meeting, which they would like to keep it as a Zoom meeting because we are able to see what's going on a little bit better when it comes to videos and etc. But we're missing a little bit of the socialization. We want to be able to get out and get to know our new members, socialize with the old members. We want to be able to show our hands-on, show our new cameras, new camera equipment, talk about it. If you've got items for sale that has to do with photography, bring a picture in and let us all look at a hard copy of your photo so that we can critique it if that's what you would like. Free items to give away. Just get in there and really get to know each other. We miss that. I checked with IHOP today. They have a room that will fit up to 36 people, although they can add more tables so we can have even more than 36 people in there. It will not cost the club anything. They stay open until 10 o'clock at night. It's really quite nice, the room is, and it is free. And I want to know what y'all think of something like that. Just have where we can order dinner and socialize with each other, talk about photography, nothing in particular, just whatever's on your mind. Any questions you may have, we can answer. What do y'all think?
Are you talking about this in addition to the regular meetings or
Yep,
in lieu
Yep,
of?
in addition.
Okay.
And if you would like to have it, I'm sorry, Dennis.
You mean have a third meeting or,
Mm-hmm, yes.
all right,
Good. I think that would work. You're right, though. You exactly hit on the problem here. I like the Zoom meetings because it's so much better to see the pictures when you're critiquing them, putting them up with a projector. But then you do miss, and I realized that at the Renaissance Fair, how much you miss the personal contact. It was good to talk to people again and look at cameras and look at unique things people have. So I think it'd be a good idea.
What I would need to know is what day of the week, Monday through Thursday, would be a good day for the majority of the people. Also, what time? 6 to 8 or 7 to 9? They close at 10. Or maybe even Brian can send out something for more input from the other members. Brian?
We can do a survey or something like that. Whatever you want to do is fine with me.
Why don't we go ahead and do a survey? How about the rest of y'all? What do y'all feel about that?
Where's that
I like the
located,
idea.
Margie?
It's in Greensburg off of I-30.
It's next to Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
It's in the same plaza as Barnes and Noble in Greensburg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right next to Olive Garden too, if you know where that is.
Yeah, I think I know.
It's kind of tucked back from the road. You see the Barnes and Noble, but you don't necessarily see the IHOP as much.
Yeah, IHOP's right there on the corner next to Barnes and Noble. I was looking for some place not only where we can eat, but something the WPS, the new members may not realize this, but WPS members love to eat. And also somewhere that was more central. And I came up with IHOP and someplace that was free and that could hold us.
I like the idea. My weeknights are kind of toast until the end of soccer season.
I think I like the idea too. Me and Margie spoke about this at the opening there the other night. And I like the idea, but I want to, I don't know if you stressed this or not, because I was working on my presentation for the next half of the meeting. It's a not so much of a structured meeting as it is kind of a social thing where we're going to get together, BS a little bit, talk, maybe look at some pictures, that kind of stuff. It's not going to be, I'm not bringing a computer in and putting up a screen and all that kind of stuff like the other meetings were or would be.
Just getting to know each other.
Yeah, it's having that opportunity to sit down and talk again like we used to, where we had time where we could sit down and just BS a little bit and talk a little bit. And if we talk about photography, good. If we talk about what car we bought last week, so what? That kind of thing. Just make it an enjoyable evening together with the group. And I think like Margie said, if someone's got some equipment they want to bring in and sell, or they want to bring in and say, hey, I need to get rid of this stuff. If you guys want it, you're welcome to take it. If you have some questions about photography, of course, that's what we want. And we would like to talk about that, but there's going to be no structure to this as far as a WPS meeting. It's just going to be a great opportunity for us to get together, eat a little bit, and get to know one another again, socialize a little bit. So
it's a replacement for the eat and park part of the meeting.
Yes.
Back when we did it at St. Vincent's.
yeah, so those of you that were around before that knew that like when we had our meetings at St. Vincent, when the meeting was over, we continued our meeting at Eden Park, and sometimes that was there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when they were open all night long. But we would leave there and just go over to Eden Park and hang out. There'd be 10 or 15 of us that usually went over, sometimes 3, sometimes there was 15. We went over and we took up part of Eden Park. We drove the waitresses insane, and we ate and we BS'd, and some of us talked about photography. Some of us just had a nice conversation. And that's really what this meeting or this get together will be about. So you guys can pick a night and a time. Depending on that, I may or may not be able to go. I may make one or once in a while. It just depends on what night you're doing it on and that kind of stuff. Because you guys all know I have a hectic work schedule.
Any comments?
Well, I think it's a pretty good idea, but I'd like to see it print focused gathering. I don't care about talking about photography, but I think the club and people need to step up and bring prints on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Okay.
And this can be part of it. And I believe that 100%, Dennis. Looking at a photo online is a little different than looking at a print in person. So that would be great to be able to bring your prints in and let's look at them. And if you want us to critique them, then let us critique them. Help improve your photography.
Most of you I've only met online, so I would think I would enjoy it. I don't know how often I would get there because I hate the drive out that way, but I will definitely make it as many times as I can.
Great.
What's the status of St. Vincent?
They're not answering me. I'm not getting anything back from them.
Okay.
We are working I'm working with Carl a little bit. We're trying to find if the church that we're meeting are
Zion Lutheran.
Yeah, we're gonna try and see if we can maybe get that as a possibility. Maybe not every month, but maybe a couple times a year where we can get in there and have our meeting there, so we can do a face-to-face meeting as well. So we're working on some stuff, but I don't think St. Vincent is going to be a viable solution at any time from here on out. I don't know. I think they used it as an excuse to not have us there or not have to because we pay to be there.
Yeah.
And they charge an exorbitant amount of money for their rooms, and we never had to pay because we've been there for so long. They never made us pay, and I kind of get the hint that they wanted us to pay, and we're not paying for that room, not what they want.
Yeah.
When we can find other options and things to do. So.
And someplace that stays open. I mean, yes, our meetings are over at 9 o'clock, or they're supposed to be over at 9, but there's a lot of times we go 9:15. By the time everybody gets their stuff together, it may be 9:30. So
Yeah.
we need some place that is more lenient.
Yep. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have a couple meetings at IHOP. With this, we get a good relationship with them. We don't, and they enjoy having us there. We can have a meeting there. I mean, we've had meetings. We used to have all those meetings at Panera Bread. We did that for years until they lied to us and told us they were going to remodel the room. That's still the
I
same.
know. Yeah.
So, I'm not opposed to any of that stuff. But I know a lot of people like this Zoom part because they don't have to leave the house. They don't have to go nowhere or drive anywhere in the dark at night and stuff like that. So we're going to explore avenues for next year that will allow us to do a little bit of everything. So
Did you want to go ahead and get
at least my plan on that kind of stuff?
Did you want to go ahead and get something out to all the members of the club so we can get their input on the IHOP socialized?
Well, I think we have a vast majority of yeses right here tonight, don't we?
Is there no? I mean, is everybody or is there no way?
No, it's good, Margie. That's a good idea to at least, have it once a month or whatever time schedule so that we get together socially and all. Like we did with the art exhibition. It was nice talking to people that we haven't seen in a while. You and Ann and Marty and so forth. So it's a good idea. It's a good concept that we should at least initiate and see how the members, follow up on it.
Yeah, get it started. We'll see how many people show up and see if it's
All
worth
right.
doing on.
How about the time?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock is good. Okay. 7 to 9 or 7 until, and the day of the week, it'll be once a month. So We need some kind of.
Even
date.
after soccer, I won't be able to do Thursdays.
I like Mondays. I mean, Monday's already blocked off because the regular meeting's the second Monday.
Right.
You could do a Tuesday, alternated with the meeting the following week, or else, 2 weeks thereafter.
See, I'm best on Wednesdays or most Thursday nights, and then after December, I'll be available almost any Thursday night.
Marge, it's one of those things that whoever can make it and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Just gotta,
it's gonna be hard to really find a date, a day of the week that, is suitable to everyone.
I agree with
Margie,
that.
I
I'll
would
come
just
up.
kind of say, pick a date that, since you're gonna be kind of running this deal, pick a date that works or a day that works for you.
All right.
And we'll get it together. We'll, put some information out and we'll get it together, and those that show up, and those that can't.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. And then if it needs to be changed to a different day to get more people, then we can do that.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
It's not set in stone, so
Yeah,
Yes.
we can,
Right.
I mean, and it's,
change
there's
it.
nothing that says we have to do it on Tuesday every month either. We can
Right.
do it on Tuesday
Right.
one month and Wednesday the next month and Thursday the
Mhm.
next month.
Yep.
We can bounce it around a little bit to try to accommodate more people to show up on whatever, whichever month works best for them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you guys, I think
Yes.
that might even work better to bounce it around from time to here to there, for different nights. That way, different people can attend based on their schedule.
Yeah. And I have to work around other people who have reserved the room too.
Right. All right, that sounds good.
All right. I'll do what I can.
Okay, and Beth, I'm sure you can put that into some kind of words that most of the people will understand in the meeting or in
I'll
the newsletter.
I'll try.
What it is we're trying to do.
Mm.
All right. Anything else? All right, Margie, you want to do a little critiquing? Are you
Sure.
in a position where you can do that right now, or you want a few more minutes?
Well, I would have been, just give me a second and I will
Time's up.
definitely. Oh, hush. Okay. Can y'all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay.
I see this. I'm not sure about that.
It's full
And
screen.
the other, this, that, and the other.
That's full screen.
Yeah, I know.
Almost. Yeah.
Okay, go for it, guys.
Margie, maybe we got a couple new people in here that haven't done this. Maybe you can give them a little,
Yeah, I was looking for my
Quick.
deal and I don't have it in front of me.
just give them a quick
probably-
30-second rundown of how we go about critiquing a photo, just so they have an idea.
Okay, we're looking for the contrast. I wish I had my deal in front of me. We're looking, for
Margie,
yes,
I've got the image elements
you.
sheet. If you want me to read them off.
please.
Okay. Top of the list was light. So if you're writing, I'll go a little slow here. And the composition. Then the subject. Then tonality. Angle. Form. Moment. In other words, the story. Color. And texture or pattern. That's it. And the suggestion is maybe look for the three that attract you the most, the three strongest elements. Okay, that's it.
And you always start off with something positive and end with something positive. The middle part will be how, in your opinion only, it could be improved. The artist does not have to agree with you or disagree. It just shows us another way of how it can be taken the next time. Okay, go for it. Anybody?
All right, I'll go first. I really like the timing and because it gets all of them in, but it definitely shows what formation they're doing. Then all of the clouds and their exhaust trails look really cool. I like that. I would be curious to see what it looks like if you flipped it around upside down, exactly upside down. Because
Huh.
I think that it would look like you're
Going up.
going up, you've got different leading lines, and I just think that that would be really interesting. I know that that's not how it was and all that, but I think that would look really cool.
Very good. Yeah. Anyone else?
If we're sticking to the prompts, I guess the one that I would like most in this one is tonality. And I really like how the left side, it's pretty much dark, and the right side is kind of like a lighter gray color, but all the trails are kind of like this middle tone in the middle that kind of, obviously it looks darker on the right side and lighter on the left side. I just think that that adds a lot of visual interest to the image.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
I agree with Jim there as far as the tonality goes. I love the tone of this picture. So the feeling that you get from it. And to me, these look like older airplanes, probably World War II, maybe Vietnam era airplanes.
they
And
are
to me-
older ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
to me, I get the feeling of this would be a scene that I could have looked up in the sky during one of those wars and seen. Airplanes with smoke coming out of the back of them, a rough, a rough weather day. And it gives me a chance to see something that in my lifetime I didn't get to see. So I think that's kind of cool. I really like that. To me, that's the story of the photograph right there, is that it's an old scene of something that I never would have had a chance to see had I not seen this photograph or been to the air show to see this. But I really I think it all kind of just works together really well.
It
I
was
think-
a rainy day. Yeah.
I think I do recognize them from the previous air show, and these guys are called the Jersey Jerks. And these are 8 American trainers, AT-6 trainers, Texans. I think AT-6 Texan is the type of aircraft. Each one is a different color, different colors, and it's fun to watch.
The weather that day that I did take it was on and off as far as the rain goes. The clouds, I really enjoyed the clouds.
Yeah, I like the composition of it too. I mean, just the trails coming in, going to the airplane or the airplanes, and then you look out the trail and follow it out through the photograph. And then you have an airplane heading out to the right or a couple to the right, a couple to the left, and a couple down the middle. And I like that whole, everything ties together really well.
Well, I've been trying to avoid saying it, but I really would have loved to see this in black and white.
You said that,
Black and white.
that
I
It's maybe
did.
black and white if it is.
Yeah, it's almost. But I think it would be synonymous, the word, with the type of aircraft it is, the age of the aircraft and being black and white. And also to see all those different shades of gray.
I'll go ahead and try it in black and white.
Oh, okay.
Those
I
are,
will
those are
give it a
new
try.
words coming out of Marty's mouth.
I'm trying, Dennis knows I'm trying to do more black and white,
I know
so.
you are, yes.
This here, I will go ahead and give it a try in black and white. And see how it comes out. You may be, it may take us back to the 1940s, and it may look like a war picture. Okay. I'm going to get out of here. Okay, we have. When you are looking at pictures, I'll remind you again, when you're looking at pictures to vote on them at the end of the month, make sure you always go all the way up where it takes up the frame. You'll see more about it. All right. Well, anyway, I'll start then. I do like the flower, the position of it. The one thing that was good is I don't see any blown out pieces around there. When you capture white, you do have a tendency to blow it out if you're not careful, and I don't see that. The background, I like it out of focus because it is a shallow depth of field, because it really brings you into the picture of the actual flower. The thing that bothers me a little bit is if you look carefully and right in through here, if you can see my cursor, that halo around there, and it looks like there's a slight halo around the photo, the bottom part of it. It is sharp, you can see it is sharp, but how can I say this? The green stem seems out of place. Leaning like that, it just like it's too heavy on this is only my opinion, too heavy on the left-hand side. But I do like the capture of everything else. Go ahead.
I like the softness of the white petals, and I also like the little green accents in them. The stem doesn't bother me actually, but I do like it.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking at it on the larger monitor, and it is amazing, critical, sharp. So to the point, if you look to the left of the stem, you can actually see a web, a really fine web. Also, the depth of field, I think, is excellent, because the forward petal and the rearmost petals the edges of them are crispy.
Yeah.
So I'd say that he nailed it. Carl nailed it.
It is sharp. You can actually go through here and see the little feathering of the petals, and also over here, the little spiky on and the dew on here too.
As an off-topic question, what would cause that halos on there? Just them 3 or 4
Over
spots?
sharpening.
In this case, I think it's because of how you remove the background.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a mask,
The
artifact.
masking.
Mhm.
I don't know if we're gonna look at the other pictures, but I remember him posting this and I made a comment. So I don't mean to jump around, but out of the other pictures that he presented, I kind of liked this one because of the background being more darker, and it didn't take away from the flower. Comparing it to the other pictures with a slightly brighter background, there was a little little bit more distraction, pulling away from the main subject compared to this one where you're forced to focus on the flower.
Yeah. It really does make that flower stand out nicely.
Hmm. Then I like the stem where it is. I like the composition of the image and how that stem comes from the lower left corner, and it gives my eye something to follow from the edge of the frame and then works its way into the actual flower.
Okay. All right. Any particular one, Dennis?
No, go to the next one.
That
Uh,
one?
One more. That one. So I was at the Westmoreland Fair Saturday afternoon, bright sun, as you can see. And I had this inspiration that I would dial aperture up to f32 or whatever I can do with that macro lens. ISO to 50 or 100, to try and get the shutter speed down. And what I was going to do was zoom or pan against the rotation of the ride. So the ride's going one way and I'm panning the other way. And the thought was that was going to give me some miraculous inspiration of an effect that would be of interest. And it really doesn't do a lot. But I thought this one with the shadow was least interesting. So that's the origination of the idea. I didn't have a polarizer lens. I had my Canon and a 100mm macro, and that's how I made these.
I like the way you experiment. No, I really like that. And
Don't know until you try.
yeah, and it looks
Yeah.
like she's almost in focus here, so, or I can go to her. I would have taken this out, this white spot over here. And this one right up here.
Yeah,
But I mean, you know me, I'm out of the box photographer. I
Yeah.
like things that are different. And this is really quite different. So
thank you.
yeah, I like it. I mean, I do
Yeah.
like that when you're doing stuff like this. And what's really neat is how these look stationary, even though
Yeah.
they're going around.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how that worked. Why is it stationary on the ground when
You know,
the movement above is blurred? So
yeah.
it's
It's
an
neat.
interesting effect.
Yeah, it's neat.
Well, and I'm wondering why the woman in red seems to be in focus. Like everything in my mind says, you know, you're going against the grain, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, as the ride is rotating and you're going the other direction,
Yeah.
my mind is trying to figure out like how does she end up in focus?
You know,
The only thing I can figure
Yeah,
is she's moving directly towards the lens of the camera and everybody
Right,
else is moving
right.
sideways to
Yeah.
it. That's the only thing I can
And-
figure.
Yeah.
And the shutter speed is probably
Well-
1/25 of a second.
Wow.
I was
So it's
thinking
not
if
like
he
it's a
was
second. So
if he was panning, sorry.
yeah, I panned, the ride goes left to right, my pan right to left.
But since she's kind of like in the further away or on the opposite side almost of the ride, she's actually going right to left in the same
Yeah, it could
movement
be.
as your pan.
Could be.
It almost looks like the person in front of the girl in the red shirt would be in focus or close to in focus as well, but there's that person in front
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
I actually think that's a really cool shot. And I think
I
there's
do
this
too.
image within, like, if you crop it, I think there's something there. Like, how can I explain it? If kind of I think if you were to crop it like maybe like a third of the way in from the left and maybe I don't know, a third from the bottom and kind of like leave the top right, I think there's a really cool image in there.
Yeah.
I would leave the shadows though.
I like
So
the
I like
shadows.
the
I-
Oh yeah.
I'm still intrigued by how those shadows came out so clear. I don't understand that.
Yeah,
That's driving me crazy.
Dennis, maybe next time, just do the shadows and forget about the
Yeah.
subjects, you know? Make it easy, but I mean, an interesting concept, just the shadows and not any of the subject matter on top.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I'll try that.
I do like stuff like that. Is Guy here tonight? I don't think he is he?
Photo guy, that's Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It is Carl.
Where's the thistle image? Oh, I didn't do it right. It's on the top. You have to click the link. I still haven't got that
Oh,
right.
that's right. Oh, you're so good at black and white. That thing is so sharp. Let me tell
Yeah.
you.
That's at Phipps.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
nice and sharp.
Well,
Did you use any? Did you use any additional lighting at all, Dennis?
No,
Wow.
Just
No.
that's just flipped from what was there at Phipps.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and that's a little bit of a crop. And I used Topaz, well, I used Lightroom to select the subject. And Lightroom does a good job, except it leaves these little forks at the top, the spaces between those little prongs. It won't select though. It'll select them when it shouldn't. And you have to go through and manually subtract with a brush. But if you do that, and then I ran it to, I tried Topaz, the sharpening AI, which materially improved the sharpness. And I was actually quite impressed with that. And I got what I thought was, and so there's a little, I do the sharpening in Photoshop because I like the way Topaz and Photoshop interact. I don't care for the way Topaz and Lightroom interact. So you get a PSD file, and then you can do Photoshop stuff to it, like take out highlights. But it did turn out to be quite sharp, I thought. It was a decent image. The other question I always have is how bright to make it. And I had it brighter than it is, but it became like I don't know, like a
I like the brightness that you have on it there.
yeah. It's not as
overdone.
bright as, well, I toned it down a little bit to make it a little more subtle.
How did you take the background out? Did you do it in Lightroom or Photoshop?
Yeah, no, I did select subject, and then copy and invert mask and drive the darkness, set the exposure down. Straightforward.
Okay, so just as a Lightroom maneuver then. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Dennis, the top of the thistle, did you highlight it to make it lighter, or was that just the natural light? From
Natural.
That's the natural light, so you didn't
Yeah.
augment it at all.
No. But it's, it's kind of a natural subject for a black and white photo.
Yeah, yes.
I like it. There's something striking about it. I just, your eye goes right to that thistle and it's not so lit that it's distracting. You still see the whole thing, but your eye goes right to the top of that, which is really a cool
Yeah.
effect.
And look at how sharp.
Good detail.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, just
If you haven't tried that Topaz Sharpen AI, if you get a photo that's good, it will make it great. I mean, if it's a haphazard out of focus, it makes it look less haphazard out of focus. But in an image like this, where it was correctly focused to begin with, it really can improve it quite dramatically. If you saw that yellow flower I had last month, that was an AI Topaz effect as well. And it made it quite nice. Makes it such that you worry about, is it too sharp? I mean, does it become artificial?
No, that's not too sharp.
No, I think it's right down Ansel Adams alley.
No.
It was there. No, that's excellent, excellent.
It is. Yeah, it's the shadows, you know, it is just the different tones in there. It is just really beautiful. It really is.
Dennis, on the lower left-hand side, looks like it's washed out. Is that right there? Looks like lighter and dark, right there.
It could be. It could be background.
Is it the background? I
Could
mean,
be. And you see on the lower right, in the lower right below the stem, there's some, and that was in the original shot. I mean,
so you put a black background?
no, I just decreased exposure. I
Oh,
decreased exposure, and if there were remaining texture,
Okay,
I would clone it out in Photoshop.
okay. So in other words, okay, you didn't substitute a black background. Okay,
No,
okay.
no, no.
So that's why it looks washed out. If you're gonna print this, would you select a background so that you don't have that washed out appearance?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to try it.
Yeah, okay, okay.
You know, I don't mind. I don't personally don't mind a little background because it gives it some reality.
Texture.
Yeah, and you know, if you were thinking about it, you'd carry a black background with you and photograph the thistle against the black background.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
The AI, that's I have Topaz, but I don't have the sharpening, so that is a separate software to go with Topaz, right?
They sell you a package of 3. They sell you AI Sharpen, AI Noise, and the expansion, Gigi, whatever it is, to make your files larger.
Yeah.
And I like the AI Noise one, and I like the AI Sharpen one. And the AI Noise one is okay, but AI Sharpen also does noise reduction. I don't care for the size thing. I thought it was awkward to use, and
Okay.
I didn't pursue it. But it's 150. If you're going to buy one, I'd buy the AI Sharpen. And you can
Yeah,
try
I'm
it.
looking at the website for it now. It shows some dramatic changes in the pictures on the website.
Yeah.
Okay. I love the capture of the bee in there with the pollen, and of course the pollen sac on the bee right here. Makes it very interesting. The halo around here, you can see that she really did sharpen it. And it's a little soft. The subject is great. To catch a bee in there like that, great. I really like that. Right here, it's a little bit blown out. But if you look closely, you can see there's a halo all the way around. All the way, even around the bee. Other than that, I mean, I really like the photo. Okay, people. Next. I like the background also being out of focus. I would like to have seen this a little bit light green. I don't know what that is. Why it's a whiter.
I think it's another flower.
Well, I thought it was another flower, but when I look at it, it just,
It's a whole
know.
group of anemone, so I think that's what that is.
oh, okay, all right. I would have probably cloned this out. That's just my opinion. Down here.
I just think the subject's so strong in that picture that between the flower and the bee being in focus, it really draws your eyes to it. And the rest of the blur, I kind of like the blur of the different colors kind of adds to it. Looks very natural. So I don't know if I would have worried about taking anything out of that background. I like it the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I do like the shallow depth of field. Don't get me wrong. I love the different texture in the shallow depth of field. And I've always liked that. This just throws it off just a little bit, in my opinion only. This part down here, I would have just cloned it out. But other than that, the rest of it,
Yeah,
yeah.
the rest is really cool.
The rest is really cool. The subject's really neat. I mean, I would love to catch a bee doing that with, flowers that I have.
You have
So,
to take a lot of pictures.
oh, I take a lot, but the bees are not, it's sad, but I don't see that many bees. Every year it gets less and less bees. And, with me being a master gardener, I have taken thousands of pictures of flowers, and my yard is full of flowers anyway. But I just don't see very many bees. It's real sad. But anyway, I like the capture of it. Like I said, there are a couple of places that are a little bit blown out, but the halo around there too. It's all the way around. Okay, next.
Oh, you mean, I thought you were getting ready to go to the next
No.
item.
I'm waiting for
Yeah,
somebody to add too.
I just wanted to ask Candace if she knew about the ISO, because it does appear to have a pretty present level of noise, which may have been what she absolutely had to have to get the picture at all. And there's often situations like that. So my question is on the how high was the ISO for this? And the fact is, you can use the noise feature in the detail panel to bring that noise down. However, it will do the same thing to the subject matter. So a trick would be to use, once again, the mask and set the mask for, I guess in this case, background. And then when you get the background reported, then go down into the noise that's in the panel for the background mask and slide that up a little bit so that you get a much smoother background. And that's also going to emphasize the sharpness of the subject. It won't do too much for the lower part of the blossom and the stem there, the lower down one, but it will smooth the background out, which will give an overall effect of being sharper.
Okay, thanks. And
Sure,
I
sure,
looked and
Candy.
the ISO was like 1400.
Okay, that's reasonable. Sometimes that's what you have to have in order to get the picture at all. And then you have to fight with it in Lightroom or whatever your software is in order to tone down the noise and keep your subject looking smoother.
I think I mostly focused on that bee. The bottom of that flower was closer to me
Mm-hmm.
than the bee was, so
It's fine. Sometimes it's what you have to do. It's the best you can do. Mm-hmm.
And that really didn't bother me because,
No.
my eye went straight up here and, the subject is what really caught my eye.
Yeah.
The petal and the subject, that is such a great Great subject matter. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Okay. Where was this taken? Beth, Ohio? How or what?
Yep. Meadow Run.
Well, it does bring out some emotion in me. You know, and that looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun if you ended up in that strong current. So, yeah, that,
It's one of my new favorite spots. If it's, Brian probably knows where it is. If you walk up the Meadow Run Trail from the slides and
yeah,
go up and kind of go through the woods a little bit and then down back along the run, there's a spot where there's kind of a big sandbar and a small waterfall like up to the right of this. And
uh-huh.
then lots of different rocks just there. And I like rocks. I probably should have been a geologist, but
Okay, everyone. I do like the tone of it and the emotion that it brings out of me when I'm looking at it, especially with all the floods you've seen on TV. It really, you know, I can just imagine getting caught in that or some animal caught in that. It's a little scary there. Do like the tones of it. Up here, I don't know if cropping up here would make the photo better. But I'm
I
gonna
couldn't
stand back.
find a spot to crop at the top that wouldn't be either too close to the upper rock or like cutting
Yeah.
through the water in a weird way.
Yeah. And I don't think I would have noticed it if it wasn't for this right in here. That was what brought my eye to that line that goes straight across. If that had been more of the water in this area, I probably would not have even noticed that. But because it was a little bit bright up there, my eye went to that. But I love the capture of this. It is really, really good. I mean, look at the spray of the water. It's just very nice.
I think when I look at it, that's what grabs me is that contrast between solid, sharp rock
Yes.
and for lack of a better description, the blur of that speeding water, and I look at it and, somebody mentioned flood, that went through my mind, shipwreck went through my mind. Like, it just churned up a lot of emotions with those two contrasts and the tones that are present there. I really like it.
What was the shutter speed on that? Do you remember, Beth?
I'm gonna guess somewhere's around a half a second-ish. Because I think most of the ones were right around there.
What
I really
time
like
of
the
day?
photo. I think Don's comment spot on, that the contrast of the blurred water rushing around that crisp view of that rock.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
nice contrast. Plus the color difference too, the kind of white gray tones and the more stark
The nice thing is,
black to white in the stone.
it's not overexposed. The whites don't wash out.
Right. Good point.
Detail in them.
I know that exposed to the right is like the thing, and I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I try to leave, especially if I'm doing whitewater, I try to pull it back a fair amount from the right of the histogram.
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear that it's the contrast that people are picking up on, because that's what I see and why I shoot rocks and streams. Because I just think that that's really cool.
It is.
And
It
just
really is.
how the water has worn away. The upper rock is all smooth and the bottom one is still kind of jagged, which
Yeah,
is neat too.
yeah, like here and then, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
I'll jump in. What I like is a basic in these kind of images, especially these, is that there is a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And I like the idea at the very top where the back area is, where the edge of the water shows on the other side. I like that there's enough of the other side showing that it shows where the water terminates, and that helps create the foreground, middle ground, background. So the background has a place to stop too. And if it didn't have that, then we would just be looking at water back there. And I like the idea of the upper edge of it, bringing it to a stop, so that you do have your foreground, middle ground, and background. Also, Beth, there's just a hint of warmth in there. Is that what you did that? You like, is that something that you did? That hint of
Yeah,
warmth?
I used a preset to convert it to black and white that's got a little bit, I think it's called glowing chocolate in On One. It was either glowing chocolate or something else similar, but it's got just a little bit of not straight black and white.
That reminds me of
like
some
it's
of the
been
early.
selenium toned or something.
Yeah, I was going to say it reminds me of some of the papers from years ago that had
Yeah.
that tone to it.
It's
It was
almost like not quite like the Ilford warm tone fiber, but
Yeah.
leaning that way.
What program? What program?
I use On One.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so that was the only program you do use is On One?
Most of the time, yeah.
No, okay.
And that's where I did this one. So
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Very, very nice. Okay, Marty's not here. Annie never showed up, did she?
No, huh?
Okay. This is our little 6-year-old that takes pictures, Gracie.
Mhm.
And she's just absolutely adorable. And y'all who went to the reception saw some of her pictures. She does take them on automatic. She is waiting for the little ding for the picture to focus. And then she knows to just push her little finger down halfway and then go ahead and take the picture. She loves taking pretty things. That's her thing. And we were taking pictures of this stuff here. She's nope, it's not pretty enough. So she does like taking pictures of pretty things. And you know, for 6 years old and all the problems she's had, physical problems, it is just absolutely amazing. I love that child. Just love her to death. This is another one of Dennis's. Dennis is really good with black and white. I do like the background. Of course, it's got some texture in there, different textures. Nice and sharp. Nothing looks like it's blown out. And the flowers are neat. I like the ones that are half dead, or they look like they're half dead or dying, along with the ones that are still nice. Okay, y'all, go for it.
I like the tonal range on this picture.
Yeah, I do too.
The tonal range in black and white should be from white to black and everything in the middle. And I'd say you're pretty darn close to every tonal range that there is through there.
I think so too.
When you're on your 1 to 10 scale, I think they're all there, or 0 to 10, I should say. In the composition, and like Margie said, the contrast between the nice flowers and the wilted flowers is, to me, I like that a lot. I really enjoy. A lot of times I photograph flowers, but I only photograph dead ones. I like that the contrast between the two. I really do. Tells kind of a cool story too. You got ones that are going out and ones that are coming in, and the circle of life cycle and stuff like
Life
that.
cycle.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. Dennis
And
is very, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
it's very-
really, I'm sorry, Bob, I keep
Click on it.
That's
interrupting.
okay. No, you,
Click on that,
ladies
Mark.
first, ladies first. Go ahead.
Thank
Margie.
you. You can really see the texture in the flowers, and that is really neat. Did you add that texture? Or is that the actual texture in the flowers?
It's the actual texture, but it's enhanced.
Okay,
Click on one of them flowers. I come down a little bit and click. Make it bigger.
here,
Yeah, make it bigger.
okay.
Yeah.
So you can really see the
I think
texture.
the texture is a reddish color, and the petals are light white pink. So you can enhance that a little bit. Little color adjustment slider.
Yeah.
Dennis, it's a good photo. The only comment I have is the thing on the right-hand side, the protruding up and all that. I'm not sure what it is, and it looks
Yeah.
out of focus, and perhaps, I don't know, in my own opinion, I would just take it out and just leave it, with the other flowers.
Good point.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I did notice that was sort of just hanging there, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But everything else is just really nice.
Was this also at Phipps, Dennis?
Yes.
So did you also kind of select the subject and put a new background?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
That works pretty well.
Yeah,
And
it does. Nice, very nice.
then find the
It's not-
subject.
It's
Yeah.
not solid black either, and that's what I like about it. I
Yeah.
mean, you say
Yeah.
it's not just solid.
When you shoot something like this, do you shoot it in monochrome or do you just convert?
I always shoot in color and convert to monochrome. There are people who will tell you, I mean, the digital camera, you can have it show you the monochrome view, but still retains the color information. And I tried that for a while, and it just didn't do anything for me. But a lot of people do that. And then when you get it in the Lightroom, you get the color image back, so you can do what you want to do with it.
Do
So I
you do you process yours in Lightroom
Always
only? Okay,
Lightroom and a little bit of Photoshop,
all right.
mostly Lightroom.
Hey,
How are
Mark,
you doing? You ready?
yeah, you want me to give you guys a little bit of a, I don't know, I'm gonna show you a YouTube video and talk just a little bit about macro photography, and then if we have some time, we'll come back to a little critiquing or we'll move on. But tonight's talk was supposed to be about macro photography. So I pulled a quick video from YouTube. I will be watching it for the first time with you. So if it sucks, I apologize. If it's great, I'm the one that picked it out. But we're going to take a look at that, and we'll talk a little bit about macro photography. I know several of you do some macro photography. As far as macro photography goes, I mean, the basic definition of it is taking magnified pictures of little things. So, that's kind of the idea of it. So we do it with flowers, we do it with bugs, we do it with rocks, we do macro photography with pretty much anything. I mean, you can break stuff down to the point where you're looking at something magnified. Lens wise goes, there are several ways of doing it. The cheapest way is by using a filter on the end of your lens that's a magnifier, basically a curved piece of glass that magnifies it. That's the cheapest way to see if you like to try doing macro photography. When you fall in love with it, then you go out and buy one of the macro lenses. Macro lenses come in all sorts and sizes. I prefer something in the range of 100 millimeters. I have a 70 millimeter and 180 millimeter macro lens. And basically the macro lens gives you the ability to focus at a much, much closer point. So you can focus way down and get really, really close. One of the most common macro lenses is like a 105 millimeter, and they are amazing lenses. Several of you I know have them.
Yeah.
Not only are they amazing lenses, but they're a great portrait lens. So a macro lens isn't just for macro photography. A 105 in portraits, Rex will attest, is probably one of the better lenses for portrait photography. Really, really a nice, good, sharp lens. So, lens wise, that's kind of what we're looking at there. And I highly recommend if you get into photography, into macro photography, buy a lens that'll do it, because that's a huge difference in the picture quality over top of the cheap things like filters or extension tubes. That's another thing. I kind of forgot about those. There's things called extension tubes where you can take a regular lens and make it focus closer, which they work pretty good, but an actual macro lens is the way to go. So with that being said, let me make sure I'm on the right screen on my other page here. I pulled a video and it's called An Introduction to Macro Photography. It's had 30,000 likes and 815 views, or 815,000 views. So we'll say that there's a good chance it might be a pretty good video. So let me share my screen here and we'll take a look at this video, share sound, and share. And you guys should see YouTube at this point. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. We'll watch it together. It's about 20 minutes long. So we'll take a look at this and see what it does. Let's hit play. All three.
Good day. Welcome to the Great White North. If you've been following this channel, or maybe you're a subscriber, which is appreciated, you may notice that things are a little different. The prairies are gone. Welcome to the temperate rainforests of Canada's west coast. There's also a new four-legged production assistant, Cousteau. He's pretty dedicated to his own craft. Moving on, macro photography. It allows you to explore and share worlds you never knew existed. But it's often viewed as complicated and somewhat overwhelming, filled with magnification ratios, extension tubes, focusing rails. But macro photography doesn't need to be so daunting, and it can be quite a lot of fun. So in this video, I'm going to cover the basics so you can get started and enjoy macro photography. To start things off, it is important to understand a few key pieces of terminology related to all photography, but even more important when working with macro. And the first of which, and probably the most important, is magnification. Now, the magnification of a lens is expressed as a ratio. And the best way I can explain magnification ratio is that it's the ratio between a subject's actual size, its physical dimensions, and the size that said subject is projected onto your camera sensor. For example, let's say you're photographing a Pacific chorus frog. Not too big, 10 by 12 millimeters. And you're using a lens with a magnification ratio of 1:5. And you're shooting with a full frame sensor, so 24 by 36 millimeters. With that 1:5 ratio, the frog's projection on the sensor is 2.6 millimeters in width. Not exactly big. So if you increase the ratio, 1:3, the frog's projection grows to 4 millimeters in width. Increasing the ratio again, 1:2, the projection grows to 6 millimeters in width. And at 1:1, the frog's projection becomes life size. So it is 10 by 12 millimeters in real life, and when projected onto that sensor, it is 10 by 12 millimeters. So this 1:1 or life size ratio, it's important because technically speaking, any ratio smaller is not macro. Moving forward, increasing the ratio again, 2:1, the frog starts growing, or its projection starts growing. It becomes 24 millimeters when projected on that sensor. At 3:1, it becomes 36 millimeters in width. That covers the entire width of the full frame sensor. At 4:1, it gets even bigger. And at 5:1, the frog's projection covers the entire frame. Hopefully this gives you a good understanding of what magnification ratios are all about. The next thing you'll want a firm understanding of, and something that plays a very large part of macro photography, is minimum focusing distance. And although a lot is described in the wording, it is something very frequently misunderstood. Yes, it is the minimum distance required for a lens to focus properly, but it's not referring to the distance between a subject and the end of a lens, but rather the distance between a subject and your camera's focal plane. And your camera's focal plane is marked by a little circle with an intersecting vertical line, and this indicates the position directly in front of your camera's sensor. Now we have a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and its minimum focusing distance is 150 centimeters, or roughly 59 inches, regardless of the focal length. So if we line this up with the camera's focal plane, 59 inches stretches out of frame and ends up way over here, and not exactly close and not exactly a powerful option for macro photos. So instead, using a macro lens, 100 millimeter macro lens, with a minimum focusing distance of 30 centimeters or 11.8 inches, conveniently the length of a ruler, lining it up once more, clearly you can get your lens a lot closer to a subject. And when combined with a high magnification ratio, it clearly illustrates how powerful of a tool a macro lens can be. The final important piece of terminology is depth of field. And hopefully depth of field is something you're already somewhat familiar with, but because it's something I talk about quite a bit throughout this video, it's worth reviewing quickly. Depth of field is the distance between the nearest and the furthest points of an image where objects are acceptably in focus, or sharp. So imagine depth of field as a three-dimensional box. Everything inside the box is in focus, and the size of the box is determined by your lens's aperture, plus one or two other variables that I'll touch on in a minute. So with a small aperture, that's a high f-stop, you have a large depth of field. The box is quite large and a lot of your image is in focus, but this requires a lot of light. So with a large aperture, that's a small f-stop, you have a very shallow depth of field. There's not a lot of your image in focus, and this allows in a lot more light. Without question, the biggest challenge you'll be facing when capturing macro photos is not having a large enough depth of field. This is especially true when using large magnification ratios, when the depth of field essentially becomes a sliver. There are two factors contributing to this depth of field dilemma. First, long focal lengths inherently have a small or a shallow depth of field, and wide focal lengths have a large depth of field. Second, depth of field becomes larger when focusing on a subject at a considerable distance from your focal plane, and then depth of field becomes smaller when focusing at or near the lens's minimum focusing distance. To clearly illustrate how depth of field is impacted by focal length, and focusing distance, I have two lenses here, a 35mm and a 100mm. Both have the same minimum focusing distance of 30 centimeters. Using an aperture of f2.8, the 35mm lens at its minimum focusing distance has a depth of field of 11mm, whereas the 100mm lens at the same minimum focusing distance and with the same aperture of f2.8 has a depth of field of 1mm. Maintaining the f2.8 aperture but doubling the focusing distance to 60 centimeters, the 35mm lens now has a depth of field of 47mm, but the 100mm lens still only has a depth of field of 5.1mm. The difference in depth of field between these two lenses hopefully shows you just how challenging it can be to create macro images with the majority of a subject in focus. You may now also be questioning, if long focal lengths produce small depth of fields, why don't macro lenses use wide focal lengths? Well, a macro lens with a long focal length moves the minimum focusing distance further from the end of the lens while maintaining that 1:1 magnification ratio. And this creates a large working distance, and that can be rather beneficial. If you're trying to photograph an insect that is easily startled, you don't have to be as close. There's less of a chance that that insect will fly away or crawl away. If you're photographing something that is potentially harmful to yourself, you don't have to be as close and put yourself at risk. Not being as close to a subject also reduces the chances that you or your camera's shadow will obscure any important and valuable ambient light. Because depth of field is so small when focusing on subjects close to the focal plane, macro photography is heavily reliant on small apertures to produce a large depth of field, and that requires a whole lot of light. There are two basic means of delivering this necessary light, and they essentially divide macro photography into two distinct shooting styles. What I would consider the first basic shooting style of macro photography is handheld shooting, and this is the most flexible option. You can recompose your composition as quickly as you can move your camera in your hands. It's ideal for following flighted insects around your backyard or through the undergrowth of a forest. However, without the stability of a tripod, you need to be using faster shutter speeds, which require even more light, meaning you're going to be adding light and using higher ISOs. And one challenge of adding on-camera light is macro lenses end up very close to the subject. And often the on-camera light is eclipsed by the end of the lens and no light actually hits your subject. And that isn't to say an on-camera light can't be made to reach right in front of your lens. There are quite a few do-it-yourself options out there to create a macro light snoot. And although many of them look rather janky, the results are quite clear. Ideally though, you'd be using a proper macro ring light or dedicated lens-mounted macro lights, and those work perfectly for running around and keeping both of your hands on your camera. Yours definitely doesn't need the breakfast cereal and cracker box construction. This is simply to show you the difference moving light in front of the lens can make. So this first photo is with the Super Posh Homemade Light Modifier / Snoot. And the second photo is with just the on-camera light. If you decide to do some handheld shooting, focusing becomes a bit tricky to say the least. Because depth of fields are so small at close focusing distances, autofocus is not usually a practical option, and even manual focus requires a bit of practice. I find it best to set your lens at a predetermined focusing distance and then slowly move yourself back and forth until the subject appears in focus. So in this example, I've got the lens set to its minimum focusing distance, so I get that 1:1 magnification ratio, and then looking a little tipsy as I do so, I will rock back and forth until this spider is exactly in focus. And those extra frames are just to guarantee that at least one of those shots has the focus exactly where I want it. If you're not photographing a moving subject and you don't need to quickly or frequently change the composition, put your camera on a tripod. This is what I would consider the second basic shooting style of macro photography. And the most significant benefit of using a tripod for macro work, like all photography, it enables you to use some considerably slow shutter speeds while relying on natural light. In turn, this gives you a chance to use a small aperture, giving you that big depth of field you're after. Another advantage of the tripod, you can be a bit more creative with the positioning of external light, should you choose to add any. And best of all, you no longer look like a drunken sailor when it comes time to focus. Instead, enable live view, relying on auto or manual focus, but to double check, magnify the image as many times as possible and use manual focus to make minute changes until the focus is exactly where you want it. When you're happy with the focus, fire off your frames. Another great benefit of using a tripod, it allows you to use focusing rails. And focusing rails allow you to maintain a magnification ratio, but move the camera further or closer to your subject. Whether by using a tripod and long exposure or by placing a flash mere centimeters from your subject, with seemingly infinite light, you may be inclined to use your lens's smallest aperture to create the biggest depth of field possible. And this line of thinking isn't incorrect. However, you will quickly encounter the negative impact of diffraction. Diffraction occurs when light passes through a small opening and then bends around the exiting corners, taking it away from its original path just slightly. To illustrate this more clearly, pretend that the nozzle of this spray bottle is a lens aperture, the water inside is light, and this piece of paper is a sensor. Now, if I have the aperture/nozzle wide open, let's call this f1.4, the light passes through the aperture, making contact with the sensor in a clean, defined point. However, stop down the nozzle/aperture, let's call this f22, and the light now passes through the aperture, making contact with the sensor in a messy, ununiformed sense. And this greatly reduces the sharpness of an image. Now, diffraction takes hold at differing apertures with different lenses. Some lenses may see noticeable diffraction at f16, while others may retain sharpness all the way to f22. For example, I have my Canon 100mm lens here, and you can see that photos remain sharp from f2.8 all the way to f16, at which point diffraction begins to appear. And beyond f22, I wouldn't consider those photos usable. When you're adding light to a macro composition, you should make every effort to diffuse your light. It's really surprising how many insects have a glossy carapace or reflective eyes, and how many plants have a waxy, semi-reflective leaf or petal to them. Personally, I use a proper softbox. It does the job just great, but there are plenty of do-it-yourself options out there that work just as well. I've tried tracing paper. One of my personal favorites is the transparent plastic that milk jugs are made out of. That works quite well. Now, I have a water droplet on this salal leaf here, and a water droplet is a pretty extreme example of something reflective, but it's going to demonstrate the difference between a bare light and a diffused light perfectly. So the first photo I'm taking with a bare light, right away I can see there are tiny little white rectangles within the water droplet, and that is the reflection of the bare flash head. So moving to the diffused light, right away, I can see that those white rectangles in the water droplet are gone, and the light is a lot more pleasing overall. One thing to remember when diffusing your light is to increase the power output just a little bit to compensate for the light lost by the diffusion. At this point, it's worth emphasizing that anyone with a sound technical understanding can produce a macro photo that's in focus. But it takes creativity, experimentation, and ultimately failure to create macro photos that are truly engaging. There is little point in me listing off compositional theories, but suffice to say that macro photography, it doesn't differ compositionally than any other photographic genre. If you're just starting to explore the world of macro, I would suggest you pay attention to two things: perspective and backgrounds. Consider how perspective influences how scale is perceived. If you photograph a subject from above, it will look small. But if you get down to its level, it will look and feel larger than life. Granted, many macro subjects are close to the ground, and getting down to their level can be a bit tricky. But if you pull it off successfully, the awkward yoga positions are worth the while. Backgrounds are often completely forgotten about, and often you're putting so much light on a subject that the background is underexposed and completely black. Some people don't mind the look of the black background, but try adding a bit of light and texture to the background just to see if it improves your composition. When you're composing a macro photo, try to remember that your depth of field is linear. So if your subject happens to be flat or at all straight, try to keep your focal plane parallel to the subject's length. In this example, I have a firm frond here, and you can currently see how the edges of the frond are not in focus. But if I move the camera's focal plane to become parallel with the frond, the depth of field now encompasses the entire fern frond from edge to edge, and it's all in focus. It's not the very last thing, but I've left the subject of gear towards the end of this video because macro photography only requires two things: a camera and, most importantly, a macro lens. A flash and a tripod are helpful, but by no means are they a necessity. If you're just starting out, your first macro lens, it shouldn't be anything overly extravagant. Most manufacturers offer 50mm macro lenses that can produce a 1:1 magnification ratio. And a 50mm focal length will give you a slightly larger depth of field than a macro lens with a longer focal length. And that's helpful when you're learning. An alternative you may be considering right now is a combination lens, a telephoto zoom lens that claims to have macro capabilities. Don't fall for the marketing. Remember, if it doesn't have a 1:1 magnification ratio, it's not a macro lens. Extension tubes may seem like an inexpensive alternative for jumping into the world of macro, but the light they take away is usually more frustration than benefit. In regards to cameras, there is no one camera type that is better suited for macro photography. However, sensor size does impact how macro photos are captured. With a full-frame sensor, you can push your ISOs relatively high while using a small aperture, but its depth of field is comparatively small. Whereas an APS-C sensor has a slightly larger depth of field, and its crop effectively increases magnification ratios of a macro lens. And a micro 4/3 sensor takes things even further. It has a fair sized depth of field right out of the gates, and once again, its crop factor increases magnification ratios. And then there's diffraction. Just as diffraction becomes apparent at differing apertures with different lenses, diffraction becomes visible with different sensor sizes. With that micro 4/3 sensor, diffraction may become noticeable at f8 or f11, whereas an APS-C sensor may retain detail to around f16, and a full-frame sensor, diffraction doesn't usually become noticeable until f22. Finally, there's resolution. If you plan on pursuing macro photography intently, you should look for a high-resolution sensor because in the world of macro, detail is king. The last thing to talk about is something I feel needs to be talked about more frequently and more openly, and that is the matter of ethics. Just because a macro subject is small enough to pick up and position exactly as desired doesn't mean you should do so. Would you capture a fox to bring home just to photograph in a studio setting? Would you put a cheetah in a refrigerator so that it moved more slowly? Would you glue a bear's paw to a tree so that it stayed put? Would you spray a cougar with water to create interesting reflections? These ideas seem ridiculous when thinking about large animals, but many macro photographers go to extreme lengths just to get that perfect photo, and they often harm their small subjects. And it shouldn't stop with the subjects either. As a macro photographer, you should be respecting your subject's environment, their habitat. Would you cut down trees that were a distracting foreground element when photographing a moose? Then why do so many macro photographers bring scissors to cut down grass and foliage that may be obscuring that perfect butterfly photo? As a macro photographer, I implore you to show these small subjects the same respect you would give to any other megafauna. With that, I'll wrap things up. If you've liked this video, click like. If you have a comment, a suggestion, you just want to say hi, put it down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
See us next time.
All right, guys.
You did good.
I'm not. Hey, I'm taking credit for that one. That was a good video.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed with that video. Impressed enough. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna hit the like button. We'll give him 30,001 likes. But very nice. It was. I thought that was a good video. It really. He really like broke things down and explained them quite well as to what's going on there. So, who's excited? Wants to go out and try some macro photography now?
Maybe not outside right now.
Well, not necessarily right now, this minute, but uh, one of the things that I like to photograph with macro photography, a couple things, but one of the things that I really like to photograph is mushrooms. Mushrooms out in the wild are pretty cool, and you get some really cool things out of mushrooms. So that's a good subject. The insects, of course, I'm not a big fan of spiders, but that one with the two little things that were jumping in his face, jumping up and down, I thought was pretty cute. Till he jumped, and then I'm like, nope, I'm leaving. But I'm not, like I said, not a fan of spiders. But the other stuff, the frogs and were cool. I mean, but you also, like he pointed out, things like ferns and stuff like that. I've done some different mosses and things like that as far as macro photography goes that usually turn out pretty cool. So
I have one question. Maybe somebody can answer this. He said in the movie, with a full frame sensor, your depth of field is less than if you have a crop sensor. Did I hear that? I think I heard that correctly.
You did.
My question is, what if you have a full frame camera and you set it for the crop setting? Would you still have that same depth of field effect or not? Because to me, it'd be the distance of the sensor to the lens. So
anyone?
correct or not correct?
Sorry, guys, I lost you a little bit there. I don't know if you guys can hear me right now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. The only thing I can say is I mean, he said that. I didn't know that. I'm gonna go out and try it. See what the difference is.
Yeah.
'Cause
I don't know if you'll see it though, if you just set your camera in.
It might be more apparent depth of field. Because you're basically, when you use just the crop part, all you're doing is chopping edges off. So what's left in there is going to look like it takes up more space
You may be right there.
out of the frame, even though all you've done is just shrunk the outside of the frame.
Yeah, I had read that before though, and it seemed like that's a phenomenon that people understand, that if you have a crop sensor, your depth of field is different. I just viewed it as the fact that crop sensor may be positioned different relative to the back of the lens compared to the full frame sensor. That was my conclusion, but
I don't think so. I know that as you go up in size with film, that like f/22 on my 4x5 does not give you as much distance as f/22 on my digital. You know what I
right.
mean? So, which is why I'm usually with the 4x5, I'm usually using like f/32, somewhere's a f/40 something up in there.
You need more depth of field than it's giving you
Yeah.
inherently with, yeah.
So you have to close down a lot more with the bigger your sensor goes.
So that's in line with what he said, because the full
Yeah.
frame is a bigger sensor than the crop, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say if you've got the full frame, then experiment, see what.
Yeah, I'm gonna fool around with it
Go to
because I have a
shots
full
and
frame and
compare 'em.
I have a setting where I can move it to, 1.6, the crop setting if I want. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a try with my camera and just see if I see any noticeable difference.
Yeah.
I think it'd be
Let us
interesting
know.
to know how that phenomenon works. I'm trying to figure out physically how it works, so.
Yeah.
Let us know.
We didn't cover this when I took physics like decades ago.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Spent too much time on motion, not enough on light in your physics class. Is that what you're saying?
We did light, but it didn't have anything to do with focusing the light and depth
Yeah.
of field.
Is there
Very easy.
anyone here who does a lot of macro shooting?
I do some.
I do some as well.
A little bit.
Yeah, I do some too. It takes practice. It's not as easy as one would think. I mean,
So,
the
yeah.
tripod is essential. Movement is bad because it just gets you out of focus. Stationary items are the best thing if possible.
Flowers.
But if you're in the wind and trying to get an insect on a leaf and all that, it's blowing, it's
Oh,
tough.
yeah.
It's tough.
Another thing that I do with my macro, because I used to do a lot of it, is I have this bean bag that I set my camera on, because when you get down really low like I do, I stomach shop, I get way down there and I need something to steady my camera. And it's only about a 12 by 8, it's real small. And you can put your camera on that right down on the ground and it really stabilizes it. You can find that, at any of your camera shops online. I know that. But I love macro. I used to do it all the time. My problem, I haven't done it much up here because you don't have as many bugs as I'm used to.
I used to laugh at Margie for saying that all the time until I went to Texas with her and there was a bug on every leaf.
Everywhere.
And bugs on your ears and bugs on your head. And
yes,
everywhere. Little tiny lizards everywhere. So, yeah, I agree with Margie. We do not have as many bugs as she had in Texas.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing for plants,
some of
bad
us.
thing for me doing macros,
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, it's about 8 minutes till. I'm just going to give just a quick recap here. September 18th is our photo walk to the Strip District. We're meeting between 10 and 10:30 at the Paulie's Place. October 1st is a photo walk to the zoo. And October 22nd, we're going to do a picnic up in Ohio. So.
Oh, whoa. Can you go over that last one? You said a picnic?
Picnic, Ohio Pal, October 22nd.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I haven't put a time or a day or a spot up yet, but it will be October 22nd. So that's what I got for that. DL posted a link to something. He said, scroll to 5 minutes. I'm going to assume that's going to tell us something about those crop sensor lenses.
Exactly.
I'll put that in the video. Whenever I post a video, that'll be in this. I'll put that link in the description. So if you don't get it right now, that's fine. It'll be in a YouTube video when I post it. All right. If no one else has anything else, I'm going to say, let's close up. I'm going to go home. I'm still at work.
It was cool out tonight. What are you doing at work?
It was, but I was just hanging out here. It was raining and stuff like that, so I figured I'll just stay here and hang out and kind of thing. So it's not a bad place to have my meeting, or have our meeting, I should say.
Yeah.
No matter what. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I think we'll go ahead and call it an evening, and appreciate all you stopping out, all you new guys. I hope did you enjoy the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure did.
Not bad for a impromptu one that I had to put together while we were critiquing, but
I do want to say that at our SWIG meeting, which is the last Thursday of the month, we always have a bit of critiquing to do.
Yeah, so we do critique a lot. We try to critique a lot. And Margie does a section at our SWIG meeting where we critique we critique at that meeting all the time. We don't always do it at this meeting because normally we have some things planned out and
right.
Sometimes it don't work out. We do other things. But there's never a wrong time to critique. So if we can fit a critique in, we're going to fit it in because it's a good thing to look at photos and get people's ideas on them.
So start posting some work.
Yeah, get some stuff posted up, guys.
Put some up so we can take a look at it.
And if you didn't see the Greensburg Arts Center exhibition, go see it. It's excellent.
Yeah, go check out the Greensburg Arts Center. As Dennis said, excellent. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed with the quality.
Yeah, so was I.
I actually spent some time and Beth informed me of who I was talking to. But I spent some time talking to a gentleman by the name of Richard Stoner, who is a pretty damn good photographer. And he was pretty impressed with our work and as a group and as a whole. I heard him talking to some people as I was wandering around, and he was pretty impressed with our work. And I take that as a huge
Compliment.
compliment. We get Richard Stoner to say we put on a good show. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Did the club buy the food and the wine?
most of it, some of it was donated from the Greensburg Art Center as well.
Mhm. Marty did really nice job.
Marty,
with all
Marty
the
done
food.
an amazing job of putting that show together.
Yes.
And we should give some
He
credit
is-
to John Walklow, who put some advertisement together that people saw.
Yes.
Yep. John did some stuff. Beth was helping out. So everyone, and I don't know who all did everything, but everyone that
I
helped
nailed
out, we
nails.
appreciate it. What's that?
I nailed nails.
All right.
Yeah, he did. He helped hang.
Nobody got
Dennis put some
hurt.
nails on a wall.
Nailed to the
So-
wall.
For everyone's help, we appreciate it. Kudos to Marty. She put everything together. She kept things under control and done a really good job. I do believe this was her first show that she put on for us.
Yes.
And it may have been her first photography show that she put on together at all. So
Yeah.
she's done an excellent job of keeping all the cats headed in the same direction, which isn't easy to do.
And Gracie was a big hit.
I
And Gracie
know.
was absolutely amazing. Cool little girl. She helped me carry a whole bunch of stuff out to the cars at the end of the night and made sure that I was looking at her shadows in the streets. So she was paying attention to things as we were going on but yeah, it was really a nice show. And if you get a chance, guys, go down there and take a look at it. If you haven't seen it, it's worth going. It's worth taking a few minutes, go down there and walk around, enjoy it. And I'll throw a little plug in for the Greensburg Arts Center. If you want to join, I think it's like $40 a year now for their membership, which isn't too bad.
Mhm.
You'll get some discounts on their classes. And we're gonna, as I said at the beginning there, Beth is going to do a little bit of possibly teaching you how to develop some film and print some black and white pictures, and I'm going to attempt to help her out with that. So
Something else is if any of you know of any contest that is coming up, like Sama just has one, Latrobe Arts Center gets some, please notify Marty and Beth so we can get it out to the members. So, any jury.
yeah,
Contest.
absolutely. If you come across the contest, you think let us know about it, because we'll get it out there. Send it to me and I'll send it to Marty and Beth and
Yes.
whatever. Just get it out to one of us and we'll make sure it gets out to the group. So people can submit stuff to other shows and things like that. Okay, guys, that brings us to 9 o'clock.
8:59.
Well,
Okay. Good night, neighbors.
Okay.
Night, everybody.
good night, guys.
I'll see
Appreciate
y'all
it. Thank you
later.
very much.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
See you.